It is the FTN Fast Break Podcast, Thursday, October 24th, 2024, episode 16. What's going on, everybody? Zach Graham, your host here, joined today not by Mike Randall, even though you see that name on the screen. It is the great Adam Pfeifer filling in for Randall. Adam, we're 2 days in to the NBA regular season. Your Cavs tipped off their slate last night. I know we're going to talk some Evan Mobley along the way. But you're decked out in the Bills regalia here today too, my friend. It's been a while. How you doing?
Yeah, actually, for the first time, you probably were like doing a double take, didn't have a hat on, and then realized we were going to put, video on. So I had to go grab it. And without even realizing it, match. It's just my wardrobe, man. It's Bills, but we'll be breaking out the Cavs stuff soon. Yeah. And yeah, dude, I've been in contact with you a lot the past couple weeks about NBA starting. I'm super excited. It's always interesting when I'm, diving deep into football every week, and then all of a sudden you look at the calendar and basketball starts, and I'm one of the I don't know how many people that do football as much as I do also dabble with basketball, but they're my two favorite sports. I haven't done baseball in like 5 years, so this is it for me. These are the two sports, and as I talked about on the podcast yesterday for football, like this is a great time not only to be a sports fan, but to check out FTN Fantasy as well. I mean, this is the time.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are listening to this episode of the Fast Break still on Thursday the 24th, until midnight, we've got our NBA sale going on, 20% off. If you sign up at FTN Fantasy before midnight on Thursday, promo code is FTN Hoops. All one word gets you 20% off a subscription with us here at FTN Fantasy. And like Adam said, it's the best time of the year, man. There's hockey content out there. I know they're early in the season. You write NBA, NFL, college hoops right around the corner. And I know, right, like baseball, we're getting down to it here in the Final Four. Are we in the World Series? I think we're in the World Series now.
Yankees, Dodgers.
Shows you how much attention I'm paying to the baseball world.
Listen, man, you got yours.
Yeah,
got yours a couple years ago.
Look, I'm going to out myself here on the Fast Break because I don't think we have any of the baseball fans listening to this. Maybe, and you can give me crap for this if you want. You know how many innings of Texas Rangers baseball I watched this year?
I don't want to say zero. I want to give you more credit.
Don't give
zero.
me more credit.
So you said
zero. I'm the definition of a fair weather fan when it comes to the Texas Rangers. When it comes to the Texas Longhorns, right? I only have so much fandom capital to dole out. And I'm Spurs, I'm Steelers, I'm Austin FC, baby. All right, let's talk some hoops here, Adam. Rapid fire through the last couple of days because we've had a lot of news. Obviously, the game's starting, but it's some contract extensions to discuss as well. I want to go back to opening night and talk about Celtics-Knicks because obviously this game was a wild one for more reasons than one. Starting off with, right, we're in Boston because it's the defending champions. It's ring night, it's banner night. And if you were a Celtics fan or anybody else watching the TNT broadcast from home, that banner starts to go up and TNT cuts to commercial. Not the best start for TNT there in their final season with the NBA rights. And if I was a Celtics fan, Adam, I would be, I don't even know if I would have the words if I'm a Spurs fan watching our banner go up and the TV cut away to a commercial. How did it make you feel watching that cut away during the banner raising ceremony? It seems less than ideal there.
It's definitely not what you want. Because if you're a Boston fan, you obviously had the championship, and then outside of the season actually starting again, probably what you're looking forward to most next was to see that ceremony and just. I don't know. Maybe they knew the game was going to be so bad. They're like, hey, we'll do this next home game.
Right. Get our commercials in while people are actually watching, I guess.
Yeah, it was weird. I thought my TV was messed up at first. I was like, did I press I thought I pressed I changed the channel by accident.
Right.
So it's definitely not what you're looking for that type of moment.
Yeah, but then the game starts, and as you alluded to, right, it was a pretty terrible game if you're watching from a third-party perspective. Certainly if you're a Knicks fan, not the start that you wanted for this team that has, I think, at least in the last decade, right, kind of the ultimate hype for this Knicks roster. Boston gets out to a massive lead. They cannot miss from three. All the way to the point, Adam, where they tied the NBA record for made threes in a game at 29 with more than 8 minutes to go. And so the final 8 minutes of the garbage time in this game is watching the Celtics, who just put on the best shooting performance in NBA history through 3 quarters and some change. They close by missing their final 13 three-point attempts to not set the new record at 30. There were multiple air balls in there. They're forcing up shots. It was a disgusting way to end a game that, again, for all of us that didn't have a dog in that fight, it just wasn't super entertaining as the opening game of the year.
Yeah, my takeaway from that game was you had 2 players who obviously different, tiers of talent. You have Jason Tatum, who's a top 10 player in the league, and then Mikal Bridges, who, like, Tatum, we knew the jump shot was like the best compliment I can give is inconsistent. And then there was obviously everything with the Olympics. He comes out and can't miss, and the jump shot looks pure. It looks good. And then we've seen obviously storylines of Bridges during the preseason. The thing, they couldn't look any different from what they wanted to do and what they did. Jason Tatum looked like, literally, like, it looked like last year's championship was like, and I know that's what Joe Mazzulla's message has been. It's been like, we're not defending the championship. We're attacking. We're trying to get a second. Tatum's obviously playing with a chip on his shoulder. Like, I think that's pretty obvious. Like, yes, he's accomplished the best thing you can accomplish in the NBA, winning a championship. But I'm sure the Olympics rubbed him the wrong way. And he's heard some stuff about maybe Jaylen Brown's the best player on this team. And then that was short-lived. But Bridges, like, this guy was, like, for a couple years straight in Phoenix, like, legitimately, statistically, the best corner three-point shooter in basketball. And I play basketball occasionally. I have an ugly jump shot. But, man, his is not good either. I don't understand what's going on. And you try not to overreact to just one game, but he's clearly in a situation where he's kind of, like, lost with it. And they need him because this is such a heliocentric offense with Jalen Brunson, kind of like Luka-esque, and, like, he's going to have to hit shots for them, especially with that bench. Other than Deuce McBride, who I think is going to win Sixth Man of the Year, like, their bench is bad. And, Towns is going to be, I think Towns is fine, but it's going to come down to me. Like, obviously, if Jalen Brunson's not great, they're not going to win, but it's going to come down to those role players of OG and Bridges who, OG got extended, he got a lot of money, and then they obviously spent all those first-round picks on Bridges. So I don't want to overreact to one game because Boston's, like, so far and away the best team in basketball, but not what you wanted to see if you thought this was going to be the year that they really, challenged Boston.
A lot was made of the kind of the hitch that you see in Mikal Bridges' shot here throughout the preseason. Warm-ups, we've got people tweeting out, clips of him taking shots. And then, like you mentioned, right, I think he started 0 for 5, picked it up a little bit in the second half. But, it's, again, I think the thing that you and I are most in lockstep there on is, like, we can't overreact to one game, as fun as it is to do. So we'll keep our eyes there on the Knicks. And also, I did want to mention, you saw it right, Tatum, Brown, who's the best player. Did you see the little Giannis subterfuge the other day? He said it again. He said Jaylen Brown's the best player on the Celtics. I love the mental warfare that coaches and players are having to employ against this juggernaut Boston team to try to throw them off. It's not working so far.
Is it? They obviously need him, but, like, Porzingis can take his time. Like, they're just so good. It's so dumb. Cornette played good. We saw the first one.
Yeah.
The first Cornette contest. I saw it yesterday.
Yep.
So that was cool.
Yep.
They're so good. And I mention this every time I watch him, but, like, Drew Holiday is going to be, like, the most underrated Hall of Fame player, like, ever, in my opinion. Like, he's going to make the Hall of Fame, right? He's 2-time champion.
I would think so. Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah.
But it's basketball Hall of Fame, not NBA. So even if it was just NBA,
right?
Right, like, he would have a case that I think.
We saw Derek White too. Mazzulla talked about how if he had to choose one thing he wanted to see from Derek White was to be more aggressive from three, and we saw that. Like, there was a couple possessions where they were in transition, he just pulled up from three.
Yeah.
So they're going to be 65 wins probably or something. They're going to be too good.
Yeah. Well, we've got our NBA data team here charting these games, and you mentioned the Cornette contest from the man himself. On Wednesday night, you had a Grant Williams Cornette contest on Alperen Şengün.
Doesn't quite hit the same, I feel like.
Yeah.
Especially against Şengün.
Yeah.
I,
But so
I respect
second
it
game,
though.
the second game of opening night, right? Lakers beat the Wolves, which first opening night win for the Lakers in the LeBron era, which was kind of a surprising stat, at least to me.
Did you see what
I guess
Anthony
it
Davis said?
no what he's oh wait
He was
in
like,
terms of like
he was
a
like LeBron
historical.
finally. It was like LeBron's first opening day win, and he was like, finally we could win a game that he makes an accomplishment because he lost. They
Yeah.
lost in the Kareem record
Uh-huh.
game. They lost
Yep.
like, and Davis obviously played a huge part of that. He was amazing.
He did. Yeah. But so the story on the night, right, is not who won or lost, but it's that Bronny James Jr. makes his NBA debut, checks in alongside his father, played what, like a
3.
minute 45 to less than 3 minutes, I think. So, and again, he looked like, if you have paid attention to Bronny James in summer league or preseason games, like he looked how you thought he would look. He's out of place. He's not ready.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be somebody to sit here and say that Bronny James never plays an NBA role. I think he's got an uphill climb ahead of him. But again, before the kid suffered, right, like a heart incident, I think we just call it a heart attack, right? Like he was a McDonald's All-American. He was projected to be a much more successful player at USC than he ultimately was allowed to be because of his physical conditions. So I'm going to give Bronny James a pretty long leash here to improve in the G League and you know, really up his game. Um, and while the moment was nice and it's cool, and I think LeBron has earned that, I also think if I was an NBA player, especially a teammate on the Lakers, I'd probably feel some type of way, even though I would, of course, not say anything publicly. But like, I wouldn't fault anybody for being rubbed the wrong way by what took place with LeBron getting his son in there. When, again, what no matter what you think of Bron or Bronny's skill level, he does not, from a basketball perspective, Bronny himself did not deserve to be out there. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I was pretty, even though it was like the home open and
Mm-hmm.
everything like that, and I didn't know this at the time, but Griffey Jr. and Senior were there.
Mm-hmm.
Had I known all of that leading into the game, I would have been like, yeah, Bronny probably plays like 2 minutes. I didn't think at all he would play until I saw that. But for me, you know me, LeBron James is my second favorite athlete of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Number one is Ken Griffey Jr. So I thought that
Number
was
one was
amazing. That
there.
was so
Yeah.
cool for me to see that.
Yeah.
I would love to get like that picture
Mm-hmm.
and just like have it framed because literally my two favorite athletes to ever play sports. So
Yeah.
that was cool. I'm obviously, on the side of LeBron most of the time. So like for me, I thought, you know what? If anybody's earned, like you said, that opportunity to do that,
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. It didn't impact the game. It didn't harm the game. But yeah, Bronny obviously he's not ready. What do you think like his ceiling is for like a career trajectory, like a Patrick Beverly type career? Like where he's
Something
like a
like that,
like a
right? 'Cause
defensive player that play like occasionally start if he has to, plays like 18 to 22 minutes per game, maybe something like that.
I think he's got the physical tools to
Yeah,
be. I
especially
think
defensively.
a Pat Bev is maybe a pretty solid comp there because he's not a big guy by NBA standards.
Hmm.
Bronny, that is, right? And I guess I will also give the Lakers and LeBron, everybody involved, credit for getting that done on night one, right? Now we can send Bronny to the G League. He can continue his career. And we don't have that cloud hanging over this Lakers team with a first-time head coach, with an aging LeBron, with the expectations that come from putting on the Lakers jersey, right? It's over. It's done with. We don't have to worry about it further. I do want to move on to this, though. You and I were discussing this a little bit earlier this morning. And I complained a lot about this earlier in the week when we found out that Joel Embiid wouldn't just miss the opening night game due to injury management, but then he would miss Friday's game as well. And now it's come out, Adam, that he is going to miss at least the first 3 games of the season for Philly. And in turn, the NBA has begun an investigation into the player participation of Joel Embiid. So investigating the Sixers here. It didn't even take us one game to get some massive drama around this Sixers team. I know we've got a big Philly contingent here at FTN amongst our subscribers, amongst our employees. And I know you, even though you're not a Sixers fan, you're up there in that area. So like for me, I think it's pretty clear that he's hurt. I just don't understand why they didn't come out and say it in the preseason. Coach
Yeah.
Nurse said multiple times, Joel has not suffered a setback. but now we're missing games at the start. And I think what really ticked off Adam Silver here, this is just my own speculation, is Joel coming out and being so forthcoming about, I'm skipping all of the back-to-backs this year. We know with Adam Silver over the last couple of years, that's a big no-no. They've raised the minimum games, right, for the awards threshold. And so I just think the fact that they were so publicly forthcoming with it is what really caught the eye of the league here. But I'm still left scratching my head. We know how bad this Philadelphia team is without Joel Embiid. They went from a top 3 team in the East last year. He's out a couple weeks. Now we're fighting to be in the play-in. So what's your take on all this? And again, I know you have a little bit of that Philadelphia perspective being up there in that neck of the woods.
Yeah, I told you this before we turned the mics on, but it's like I told one of my best friends who's a diehard Philadelphia fan about this, and his immediate reaction was like, Adam Silver just hates the Sixers. Yeah, it is weird because like I 1000% believe Embiid's actually hurt, but like you said, why didn't they just come out and just be like, yeah, he's dealing with something, he's going to miss the start of the season. We're in a situation where we're trying to compete and contend for a championship. Mm-hmm. The first 3 games of the season, we don't want Embiid, making things worse on himself. So it is weird. It really took me by surprise a little bit, but yeah, like we saw, they obviously need him yesterday. Yesterday, Tyrese Maxey, 31 shots. Like, they don't get anything else from anybody else because, losing Embiid is obviously one thing, but then Paul George obviously didn't play either, and it's just like, yeah, Kelly Oubre and Tyrese Maxey is your offense right now. So I'm interested in this team in general when they're fully healthy because obviously the Paul George situation is the key takeaway. But I thought they've done some nice things with some of the secondary pieces they've added. But yeah, just get healthy. That's the only concern that anybody has for this team going into the season. Do they have, even when fully healthy, the same upside as Boston? Probably not. But could they be the 2nd seed? Yeah, if they're fully healthy, they could be 2nd to 5th. That's the top heavy part of the East. Like, I think, Cleveland, New York, Milwaukee, Indiana, all these teams can finish, 2 through 6 pretty easily. Orlando.
I guess that's just like going back to my confusion surrounding how they're going about communicating this, right? There's been frustrating injury situations all around the league. Chris Middleton, Kawhi Leonard, the first 2 that come to mind. We've had communication from those teams. We've known that those guys aren't cleared to practice, play 5-on-5, and they updated us that those guys were going to be out for the beginning of the season. And Joel Embiid, to say it's injury management here, we haven't played a game. What are we injured from? Played in the Olympics? I just don't get
kind
it.
of.
So yeah, we'll keep we'll keep our eyes on Joel Embiid and the NBA's investigation into his non-participation. We also got the news: Aaron Gordon, 4-year, $113 million contract extension with the Denver Nuggets. And my first reaction, Adam, that's a long contract for a guy like Aaron Gordon. 4 years, $113 million. In 2 years, they're going to be paying their top 4 guys, right? Jokic, Murray, MPJ, and Aaron Gordon. Nearly $200 million. 190, I think, is the accurate number there. But, I don't know, man. There's only one all-star in that group that I see. And to be that heavily invested, maybe because you have Jokic and how great he is, this team can still contend for a championship over this next window that they've built for themselves, right? MPJ got his extension, I think a little over a year ago. This offseason, Murray and Aaron Gordon. I don't know, man. It's still, again, if we didn't think Jokic had this team on his back already over the last couple years, I think the weight is just going to get heavier and heavier as we continue on with this core group. I'm not saying they have really any other option to keep this window open under the rules of the salary cap other than extending these guys, but it just doesn't seem ideal. And I think the window for the Nuggets is just a little bit more shut this year than it was last year, and then what it was the year prior, right? Teams around them are getting better, and I don't know if we can say the same for Denver. I'm not ready to say that they're getting worse than they were last year, but last year wasn't good enough, right? I know Jamal Murray was hurt and beat up in the playoffs, but pretty much everybody's a little bit hurt and beat up at that point. I don't know. I'm not convinced that this, or that the trajectory of the Nuggets, that arrow, is still pointing upwards.
Yeah, it's tough because as long as you have Jokic, if you're not competing for a championship, you're selling your team short. And Aaron Gordon, I think, obviously it's like instilled in our mind because we've seen him with Jokic all these years, but like he fits Jokic's play style so well. He's such a good cutter. He's, sort of had some growth as a 3-point shooter, but as long as you're keeping this core together, like that has to include Aaron Gordon, in my opinion. But yeah, it's going to be interesting if they don't. Like, I think everybody's clearly gotten to the point now where OKC is, all offseason been ranked as the top team in the Western Conference, easily ahead of Denver. But I mean, I've seen Jokic carry this team to like a 5th, 6th seed with all these guys out. So if they go to the finals, should we be shocked? No, just a little bit more surprised than maybe 2 years ago with how good the West is. OKC looks like an absolute beast of a unit. But it is interesting to see, whether this year, next year, what if they're in a situation where they're like really in a lull? Do they start making some key decisions on non-Jokic players with potential trades? That's something to keep an eye on. But in terms of overall play style for this team, like I think Gordon fits Jokic so well. So, but yeah, I was kind of surprised too that it was the length it was for the contract.
Well, and again, it goes back to like, what else are they supposed to do here? I'm not sure. Calvin Booth has painted himself into a corner somewhat with his flexibility or lack thereof in building out this team.
And like Jamal Murray, if he's healthy, where would you rank him among like second options in the NBA? Like Jaylen Brown is one pretty easily.
Yeah.
If he is like 1A, 1B.
He's up there for sure, right? He's up there. I think he's on the wrong side of fringe all-star, and I don't know if that's going to get better. I think his knee is going to continue to bother him. We saw it bother him at the Olympics this summer. He was complaining about it in the preseason.
And he was brutal in the Olympics.
Yeah, but going back to what you said earlier about not overreacting to one game, I don't think I should overreact to this contract. I think it'll be proven right over the long term. In terms of like their window closing. I think if they're going to win another title with this group, it's got to come this year or next year because of all the young talent that's rising up in both conferences. And I just think because we know that core is going to be together now for the foreseeable future, the clock is ticking rather. And the clock is ticking on us here on the fast break. Let's talk about some of the games from Wednesday night, right? We had 10 games in the association. It's kind of our first wild night where you got to use the quad box on your league pass subscription. And we did have a couple notable things that happened last night. First, an injury. Very unfortunate for the Pelicans. DeJounte Murray in his first game with the club fractures his hand in the win last night over the Bulls, so he will miss extended time, right? If you're looking on a season-long fantasy team and you have CJ McCollum, you're feeling great this morning, right? That's going to help the fantasy upside of a Brandon Ingram, a Zion Williamson. Zion himself missed opening night with an illness. So I feel for the Pelicans. I feel for my pick that the Pelicans were going to win the Southwest Division because DeJounte fracturing his hand does not help them.
It was like really late in the game it happened too, right?
It was. I mean, he had a pretty solid stat line. Again, they were beating the brakes off of the Bulls. The Bulls themselves looked pretty horrific. But yeah, it's just not a great start to a team, again, that is still, I think, looking for answers.
But it's also always the question mark with them is health because of Zion. So it's like it's the worst possible start you could almost have. So
yeah, but luckily they haven't shipped out CJ McCollum quite yet. So you're kind of just back in the same situation you were last year, minus Jonas Valanciunas. And I do want to talk about their front court here in a little bit. We also saw in the late night game on ESPN, the Clippers opened the new Intuit Dome, 116-113 overtime loss to the Phoenix Suns. Of course, Paul George out of town, Kawhi Leonard out. So this is a somewhat shorthanded Clippers team that was able to keep up with the offensive firepower that Phoenix is bringing to town. But my biggest takeaway from this game, Adam, did you see the wall? Yeah. Right? So they've got the huge, one side of the Intuit Dome is just straight up seats, season ticket holders there that I believe get actual tangible rewards for cheering as loud as they possibly can. They've got like mics built into their seats or something. So I'm watching this. And again, as a soccer fan down here in Austin on the MLS side, this reminds me of a supporter section at a soccer stadium, wherever you would find them throughout the globe. And I love it. When you see this type of stuff in the Euro League, especially in like the Serbian league, where you've got the eternal derby between Red Star and The other team is escaping me right now, but like the fans over there are insane. Soccer fans are insane. And watching these Clippers fans go crazy last night, cheering on every single made basket with some zip and zest and some fervor. Like, I love the Wall, and I hope that the Clippers remain competitive enough throughout this season that the attendance, that the interest there does not dip, because I think this is something that could catch on across the league here. And I want to see more teams employ the supporter section behind one of the two baskets.
Yeah, it was cool. It adds like a little bit more like theatrics too. I looked fun. Simple as that. Just looked fun.
Yep. Jimmy Butler comes out of the game against Orlando at the end of the night, subbed out, finishing with 3 points, 1 of 8 from the floor, and a minus 30. So much for Jimmy Butler coming in ready to go and being a new regular season Jimmy. Again, we don't want to overreact to one game. And this could also point to the fact that Orlando may be a team that has taken a jump. We know how good they are defensively, but just a dismal performance from the Heat's highest paid player. Did you get to watch any of that game? Because it was not pretty.
I didn't. I saw some clips of Paolo's probably gonna be like a consensus like top 15 player maybe by the end of the season. He's on that trajectory.
Yeah.
Orlando is interesting because like they're kind of in the same boat as Cleveland. Like they really pride themselves on playing defense, but if they can get steps forward shooting and offensively from their young players in Franz and Mobley for Cleveland, yeah, I mean, I think Boston's a clear 1 seed, but like for Orlando, Cleveland finished as a 2 seed, especially Orlando with both those teams honestly being really well coached. But I didn't get to watch most of the game. Miami's a team that I've been lower on since like last year, though. I don't know, man. Their half-court offense just hasn't consistently been good enough, and that's a pretty brutal matchup if you think about it against a team like Orlando. If you're not the greatest three-point shooting team and your half-court offense isn't great in the first place, Jonathan Isaac defensively is insane. Like that's a brutal matchup for Miami. Now I think about it, I don't think they want to see them again.
Really, for both teams, right? You look at the implied totals heading into last night's games. 9 of the games, 221 or higher. Orlando and Miami, 208. Yeah. Right, so that was just going to be a rock fight right from the start. But we'll keep our eyes on the Heat there. And again, tonight on Thursday, right? I'm ready. 6:30 Central. Victor Wembanyama, Luka Doncic, Spurs and Mavs. The I-35 series kicks off here on opening night for both of these teams. But we also get the Thunder and the Nuggets as the nightcap here on our TNT doubleheader, and the debut of the number 2 overall pick, Alex Sarr, as the Wizards are going to host the defending champions. They're 14-point home dogs here. But I'm interested to see what Alex Sarr can do against a team like the Celtics here, because we all know about the 0 for 15, just the absolute awful summer league that he had back in July. And then the couple appearances he made in the preseason, Adam, shots going in. He looks a little bit better on both ends of the floor. So I'm interested to see what he can do now going against the best of the best that the world has to offer right now in the Boston Celtics. What are you looking forward to here tonight on Thursday? 4-game slate.
Yeah, it's Wemby. Like, it's Wemby with a true point guard. Like, you talked about this so many times last year on a nightly basis of, like, how much better Wemby was with just Trey Jones on the floor. And now you have Chris Paul, Chris Paul's obviously at the twilight part of his career. But I don't know, man. The other thing, too, is, like, Wemby, I want to see how many blocks he gets on a nightly basis, because he's going to, I mean, I talk to you about this all the time. Like, he's gonna quadruple double before the end of his career. We know that's gonna happen. And you have a team like Dallas that drives the basket one of the highest rates in the league. Like, yeah, let me get like 11 Wemby blocks tonight. Also, I am excited to see very quietly what the rotation kind of looks like for OKC. You know, they're missing Hartenstein, who's going to be a key piece for them. But also you have like Caruso and Dort. Like, I don't want to play the Thunder.
Right? Like Casey Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, all of those guys are in rotation.
Do they have the best bench in the league?
They're up there, man. If they're not number
Minnesota's is really good.
Yeah.
But like their bench was like quietly good last year. And then they bring in, Hartenstein can start for them obviously when he's back, or come off the bench depending on the matchup. Like at any point you're gonna have Caruso and Dort guarding the top scorer on the wing. Like, yeah, they're
I'm struggling to think of a team off the top of my head. In terms of outside of Minnesota or OKC, the name value on the Warriors bench, I don't think the talent matches up.
yeah, and it's
towards
also
those
like
other two.
a game by game basis because you saw the
Sure.
starting five they had yesterday when they went with all the size, but like they can start pods or on a given night, and the bench looks
Yeah.
different. They had that one lineup where it was Curry, Healed, and pods, and they were just scoring. But yeah, I think it's a good call. Like depending on who they start each game, like the Warriors on paper could look like they have a pretty good bench too.
Let's close out episode 16 as we normally do. Little stock up, stock down. We'll start with stock down here today, Adam, and I'll take the lead. Stock down to the Houston Rockets. Yeah, I got my hater glasses on. Rockets taking on the Hornets last night. Comeback victory for Charlotte. Masterclass by LaMelo Ball. And again, as a fan of the team in the Texas Triangle down here, I love to see Houston getting upset on night one. That is a bad loss. I don't care how you try to spin it.
Yeah, and it's also a bad loss when Brandon Miller leaves after 11 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. You're starting Cody Martin. You're starting Nick Richards, right? Like Mark Williams is still out coming back from the foot injury. So this is probably the happiest I've been to announce my stock down on the
Zach, all
podcast.
podcasts. I don't want to make any too large assumptions after one game, but the Rockets stock down. They're done. It is funny. Yeah, I kind of struggle with stock down just because I don't want to look at it from a one game lens and be like, oh, huge worries. Mine was though with Bridges, just because like it's been weeks now with this jump shot, and they gave up so much to get him,
Yeah.
and their bench isn't good enough for him to disappoint. Like they don't have like again, I love Deuce McBride, but like after that, like they don't have. They'll get Mitchell Robinson back, but he's obviously not somebody that's coming in to score off the bench. They don't have the depth, especially scoring and shooting, for him to be a disappointment. So, like, again, I'm not freaking out after one game. I still think if he can get back to Phoenix, Bridges, like, this team can be as good as anybody but Boston. We know that, but it's been a little bit of a concern now. Like, it's not just like he's, like, getting good looks. The shot looks good. It's just in and out, and the shot's not falling. But it just looks like there's zero confidence and just straight up confusion. So, they desperately need him because the Brunson and Cat defensively aren't. You saw Boston what they did. They just attacked both those two. Every set was to get those two in action. They had freaking Drew Holiday on Towns, and I was like, that's fine. They can do that. Like,
Yeah.
so they need Bridges badly.
Yeah, and if I'm a Knicks fan, I'm at least after night one, right? Trying not to overreact, as we've said multiple times.
If that was if that was against like I don't know. Miami or like I don't know, Chicago, Indiana. It's like a good, well, maybe not Chicago, but like a good but not great Eastern Conference team, and that happened. I'd be a lot more worried. But again, it was Boston. They're clearly the top team in the league,
right?
And those 3-point games for them are kind of outliers, but they're also kind of not with the way they play. So,
yeah.
But it's not that I'm worried about the team. I'm just a little bit eyebrow raised with Bridges right now.
Yeah, and you just, if you're a Knicks fan, you don't really want to look back at those, the articles written about those trades and see how many first-round picks you gave away for this guy after one game, right? Let's
4?
close it out here. What's that? Yeah, I think it was 4. I think so, yeah. Let's close it out with stock up, and Adam, I want to go right back to you. It's that time. Talk to me about your stock up here.
I really didn't want to put him on this list because
I left it for you. I was going to do it, but I left it for you.
But then I watched the Cavs game, and I'm like, holy shit, Evan Mobley's so good. And look, this has been the talking point of Cleveland, right? They're one of the best regular season teams in the Eastern Conference, and then the playoffs come, and is that fit with J.A. and Mobley going to work? And obviously, Allen had, the rib issue last year, so missed pretty much all but 2 games of the Orlando series, then didn't play against Boston. Mobley was awesome against Boston. He was so good. And he shot like 37% from 3 last year, albeit limited sample, not shooting more than a couple per game, if that. But Kenny Atkinson comes in and stresses the importance. He wants to shoot threes. Cavs shot a lot of threes last night. Mobley hit a couple. And, dude, he was so aggressive on offense. He had a 28% usage rate. It was like actually one of the highest usage rates he's had in his career in a game. He's had a couple where he's been like 35 plus, but he had Scotty Barnes in absolute hell, which felt great for him because he stole his rookie of the year. Yeah, I'm still mad about that. He like he's got this like aggressiveness with this spin move and
Yeah.
this you can't his like quick hook shot, you can't block it because he's like 7 feet tall. I'm I'm not saying that Evan Mobley is going to become like a 38% 3-point shooter and help
Let
this
it
team
all
get
out. Let it
spacing.
all out.
But if he's this aggressive, scoring Evan Mobley on top of being, I think he's at worst the third best defensive player in the league. Like I think you could make the case it's Draymond, Wemby, and Mobley. I still give Draymond that respect. And then you have Garland, who keeps fouling everybody in the first quarter of games, but like his playmaking looked good. I don't know, man. I know it was against Toronto, but if this is the Evan Mobley we're going to get more consistently on the offense, because that's always been the question with him and the Cavs. It's like, yeah, he's good. He's awesome. He's a really, really, really good player, but are they capped by is their ceiling capped by his lack of offensive growth? And immediately you saw, and I think that's coaching. I think it's him having the mindset during the offseason and coaching of, you know what, dude, you're an elite defensive player, and we have Donovan Mitchell, and we have Darius Garland, but we're going to go as far as you go as well. So, it was Toronto, but just loved everything I saw from Evan Mobley, and I'm just happy Cavs basketball is back because there was a Cavalanche in the second quarter last night. They went on like a 21-4 run.
I haven't heard that one. I love it.
That's like that. By the way, I didn't come up with that. That's like a Cavs Twitter. Huge. Like every time they go on a huge run, that was back when they had like Chetty and those guys. Like when they go on a huge run, they call it a Cavalanche, and they had one last night.
I love it, man. Yeah, and like to me, that's not even it's a 1-game regular season sample for Evan Mobley, and you talked about it being the Raptors matchup, right? But Evan Mobley looked great in the preseason too, and to me, this is just a continuation of what we've seen over the last 3 weeks from him. All right, my stock up to close out episode 16.
I like this one.
Yves Macy, right?
I like
Pelicans,
this one.
And again, I think just like you were pointing out, the matchup for a guy like Evan Mobley and the Cavs, the matchup against the Bulls for the Pelicans.
This is different though. It's his first career first career game.
Yeah, first career regular season game, and Yves Macy off the bench, the first round rookie, 12 points, 7 boards, 1 assist, 3 blocks, and a steal in his 23 minutes. If this guy is a usable rotation piece, then I don't think the Pelicans are as in trouble in their front court as we all kind of thought coming into the season.
I think he might start sooner than later.
Yeah, right. If he can be out there and, again, be as competent as he was last night, right? Some of that was in garbage time down the stretch. But, again, I thought he looked good when the game was still in the balance as well. It was a little bit eye-opening for me. So he's my stock up for this week. I don't want to overreact in a positive fashion, right? Go too far on Macy after 1 game. But again, this is something to watch because if the Pelicans, again, if this is a usable asset for them in his rookie year, that's a huge win for New Orleans.
Yeah, when you sent me the show sheet and you had him on your list, I went back and watched a lot of that game. His timing when to like roll and cut with DeJounte and the pick and roll was really good.
Yeah.
Obviously, it stinks that DeJounte's going to miss some time, but simply put, it's cliche, but he didn't look like a rookie. And obviously there's the talking point for this team has been who the hell is going to play center. Obviously it was Daniel Tice. Would not be shocked if we're in like mid-November and he's starting games for them.
Yeah. Or at least maybe Daniel Tice is sent to the bench. Maybe they start small with Zion and Macy is the backup. Again, like if all of a sudden they have options there in the front court, again, it's stock up Yves Macy, stock up New Orleans Pelicans.
Also, real quick, I did want to shout out the Pistons for a second stock up. They lost to Indiana, but the Pacers are a top 5 offensive team in basketball. I thought defensively they looked the Pistons looked really engaged. I thought they looked like they were obviously just a much better cohesive unit. They have a little bit more shooting now with Tim Hardaway Jr. and Tobias. Cade looks awesome. I think Cade's going to win Most Improved Player. Even though Wemby's like the chalk, I just think I think the voters will kind of see the case for Cade more just because what he's gone through in his career with the injuries and stuff and being on a bad team, and Wemby is just everybody knows Wemby's going to be a consensus top 5 player in the league probably by the end of this year maybe. So Pistons, are they going to be a good team? No, they're probably going to be still one of the worst teams in the league, but A, they'll be a lot more fun to watch, and B, they're just playing harder, especially defensively. Like 115 points to the Pacers. Last year, they probably scored 130 against the Pistons.
Sure. Yeah, sure. And, right, I think that was probably the second most entertaining game.
That was a fun game.
A third-party perspective. Again, I loved the Hornets-Rockets game, but that was the earliest game on the slate,
Yeah.
and watching the majority of that game, I'm right there with you.
Cade is
Very
like
fun to watch.
That draft class was so good. Looking back on it,
Yep.
everybody's getting extended because they're all obviously the contracts are running out, but like they're all deserving of these extensions because everybody in that class is freaking awesome.
Well, Adam, anything else for you here on episode 16 before we shut it down?
No, this is fun, man. I'm happy to talk some hoops at all times. It's that time of the year where I have to balance the football and the basketball.
Yeah.
But it's fun because like if like last week, for instance, the Bills won, but other than that, my week was terrible. I lost like every fantasy matchup. So you know what I did? Before I started the week 8 process, went, consumed a bunch of basketball content, and got ready for the season. So it's nice to have both. And I'm stoked, man. I think this season's going to be really fun. And at this point, I just want everybody to check out everything we're going to have at FTN Fantasy as well for hoops because it's exciting.
Yeah, again, if you're listening to this on Thursday night before midnight and you haven't signed up yet at FTN, you can get in there, promo code FTN Hoops, 20% off your subscription with us here at FTN Fantasy. That'll do it for us on the Fast Break, episode 16. Mike and I are back on Monday, breaking down everything that happens in the basketball universe between now and then. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. We'll do the same. We'll see you back here on Monday. Till then, he's Adam, and I'm Zach. Goodbye.